Howdy gang, this is Jerry. Today I was in the middle of a wrenching session and figured I'd pause and turn on the camera for a minute because I've got a new Castle power system that I'm going to be dropping in my arm of granite. And just wanted to kind of give a first look at it, first impressions on it. I'm reworking. I've got my arm of granite over here. It's kind of halfway torn down, and over there on that side I've got my Techno short course truck, and I'm kind of swapping the electronics around in them a little bit, and just kind of wanted to talk about this new Castle system and then talk about my thoughts as to where I'm going to put them and why I'm going to put them where and such. So anyways, as a lot of y'all probably heard, Castle has this new speed controller that they call the Copperhead. They've kind of got a snake theme going on here. Their lower end system is called the Sidewinder, and then they've got the Mamba system as their high line. And I've got a couple of Mambas. This is a Mamba X, and then I have a couple of Mamba Monster X, which is the next size larger. That I don't have any of those loose to throw on the table. But anyways, so this guy here is supposed to be kind of a mid-level ESC, or my impression of it anyways, is that it's supposed to be kind of a mid-level speed controller that fits somewhere between the Mamba line and the Sidewinder line. The Sidewinder is a very bare-bones basic, seems like when it comes to programming. I've never really bought on with that line of speed controllers. And my big complaint, I'll be honest, my big complaint with that speed controller is just the BEC on it, that it's either a 5 or 6 volt, depending on which model you get, and I think most of them are like a 2 amp. Don't quote me on that, but I've looked into them, and this in the past, and never really been impressed with the battery eliminator circuit, the voltage that's provided to power your servo. Because if your servo, I do a lot of monster trucks, you need a strong servo, and if you're only getting 5 volts, 2 amps, you just can't put a very good servo in your car, and that really impacts your driving experience. So I've stayed away from that line. I did get into the Mamba line because they do have adjustable high-powered BECs, but the Mambas are expensive. These are some kind of almost a racing class, a premium class speed controller, so they get to be kind of pricey, and so I really can't afford a lot of them. I bought this one here used, and it's kind of the way I go with this, is I try to buy more affordable stuff. So when this the Copperhead was released, I was really intrigued by it because it has a lot of the Mamba specs. It does a little bit of the data logging, not a complete data log, but I think it's a partial data log. It has an adjustable BEC that you can bump it up to 7.4 volts, I believe, and I believe it's a 6 amp let's see, where does it say? A 6 amp BEC. So you can power some pretty serious servos with that. So that is very nice, and it has the Castle link, of course. 2 to 4S speed controller, which is good. So this is for a 10 scale monster trucks or short course trucks. This is going to be really a good deal. And then it also came with, they have a new 14 series motor, and I got the combo here. So this is their new 1412 size motor, and I'll talk about that in a minute. When I was looking at these guys online, I thought this was going to be a budget version of the Mamba. I thought they were basically took the Mamba, stripped a couple of options out of it, and was releasing it as a budget Mamba. When I get them in hand, though, they are very different. Just by looking at them here on the top, you can see on the Mamba, you've got your battery cables here and the motor leads all here together on the same end of the speed controller. On the Copperhead, the battery power leads are on this end with all the controls, and then the motor leads on the bottom. So that right there tells you that this is a completely different architecture from the Mamba. This is not a budget Mamba or a crippled Mamba. This is its own speed controller. Number 2 thing that jumped out at me on them is the cases. The Mamba is a aluminum case, very solid. Copperhead is plastic. It's got a plastic case. Matter of fact, the black and the gray you can see here are 2 separate pieces, and if I hold here and wiggle, I can kind of feel them wiggling. And you can see these little clips on the bottom. You can just pop these 4 little clips and take the plastic off. I did that a minute ago. And the electronics inside, they do look nicely potted. They're completely coated with epoxy, so it looks like, yeah, they ought to be good for getting wet. The other thing that is similar about them is they have almost the exact footprint. The Mamba is maybe just a hair bigger, but it's only by a couple of, well, in the length they look like they're exactly the same. And the width, the Mamba is maybe a millimeter or two wider. So about the same footprint also. And then this Toro over here, I just have this out here just to kind of compare. The Toro is a less expensive 8th scale 6S speed controller. You can see it is a lot bigger. It's closer in size to the Mamba Monster. I think the Mamba Monster might be just a slight bit larger than the Toro. Maybe not as tall, but it's a little bit wider. And this, I have this here because this is the speed controller I'm taking out of my Techno truck. So that's just a quick first look. Oh, and one other tidbit here is the way that the fan is powered. The fan is completely separated. You can, let me get it in here to the camera. You can see the fan is separated. It has this little dust cover. If you want to run without the fan, pull these 4 screws, take the fan out, put the plate back down, and so you still get the dust cover with the Copperhead logo on it, but then with no fan. And then the fan cord, it doesn't plug into, there's no port on the speed controller to plug the fan in. You have, it comes with this long cord, so you have to run it back to your receiver box and plug it in a spare channel. So keep that in mind. If you only have a 2-channel receiver, you need a 3rd channel to plug in this. And then if you have a motor fan, then there's 2 more channels, or you've got to do some wire splicing or something fun like that. So that's something to keep in mind, is that you do need an open channel on your receiver to be able to power the speed controller fan. Moving on real quick, just want to talk motors. So we've got this brand new motor. This is the new 1412 3200 kV motor. It is censored, limited edition, and there was a post on ARMA forum where a Castle rep came on and basically said that they will have the normal edition of this motor eventually that will be exactly the same, just green. So the limited edition, essentially all that gets you is that it's black, and you get one of the early releases. 1412, I just want to kind of talk about the sizing on this motor. When I started back in the hobby and I started learning about the way these brushless motors are sized, I got used to the sizing like on this Racer Star here, which says 3660, and that is the can is 36 millimeters in diameter by 60 millimeters long. And I have the motor mounting plate for my Techno is on here, because this motor will be going into the Techno at the end of this wrenching session. So the Castle sizing confused me, because it's 1412, and what does that mean? And the 14 is the diameter, but it's not the diameter of the can, it's the diameter of the stator, the electromagnets inside the can. And that 14 is in tenths of an inch instead of millimeters. So this is 1.4 inches, the stator, in diameter, not counting the can. And the 12 is 1.2 inches, how long is the actual magnets on the rotor. And those two numbers, if you know anything about motors, that's much more important for motor power versus just knowing how wide and long the can is, to know the actual size of the magnets and the stator inside the can. In real world sizing, these motors are basically the same size motor. The Castle has this extra thick end plate on it that gives it a couple of millimeters overall length compared to the cheap China motor. And this Racer Star, by the way, this is a brand that is sold by Banggood online, banggood.com, but it is basically a Ghoul RC motor that Banggood just puts their Racer Star brand on. So you can buy this motor all over eBay and wherever else for like 30 bucks or something. These things are dirt cheap. And I've been generally happy with it. It's been a good motor. As a matter of fact, I have a second one in orange that's in my garage. And then I also wanted to kind of throw this Pro 4 down here just to show. This Tekken Pro 4 is a 3650 size motor, and it is a very well regarded racing motor amongst people that race four-wheel drive short course. And this is the motor that I'm taking out of my Tekken short course truck, primarily just because I'm making it a basher, and this motor is great on 2S, but for a basher I want just a little more oomph, and so I need a 3S motor, and that's where this guy comes in. And now one negative that I'm going to bring in here real quick. I bought this combo thinking I was going to put it in my Tekken short course truck, but there's a problem here, is that the motor shaft is in a 1/8 inch shaft instead of a 5mm shaft. So that is a pretty good sized difference in shaft thicknesses. And so I'm kind of reconsidering what I'm going to do with this, and I'm going to put this instead in my arm. I'm going to put this motor in my Arma Granite. My Arma Granite had been running the Racer Star with the Mamba speed control. So this was the combo that was in my Granite. This will be now moved to my Techno short course truck, and my Techno will now get the Copperhead combo. Oh, I mean, my Granite will now get the Copperhead combo, because my concern is that with this smaller shaft, with short course trucks and open drive trains, if you pinch a rock between your spur gear and your pinion, that can put a lot of side flex on your motor shaft and can break the shaft off the end. And so Techno, the drivetrain is completely open. My arm, it's sealed, sort of. Dust can get in, but rocks should not. So this Castle motor will be going into the Arma. And two other things to point out about this motor is, man, check out these motor leads. These things are a mile long. I mean, it's really here. Wait, hang on. Let me find a measuring tape. Oh, here's a measuring tape. These things are a solid 10 inches long, 10.5 inches long. These things are huge. So I'm going to be cutting these guys in half at least, and soldering them down lower. The other thing that I wanted to point out is with these Armas, and if you don't run an Arma, this won't be an issue, but you got this nice heat sink, and the heat sink won't sit all the way down because of the way that wiring is. And so I'm going to have to unsolder these and reverse them so they're coming off these pegs in that direction. And then also, even so, I'm probably going to have to cut the motor mount a little bit so that this aluminum motor mount doesn't touch those copper leads, because that would be instant disaster. So I'll probably have to grind off and cut back an 1/8 of an inch or so off the end of this motor mount to make that work. So that's another consideration, that if you're not the type of person that likes to grind on, cut off motor mounts, you don't like to resolder, this motor will not be a drop-in to the Arma 3S line because of that nice big heatsink. You could run it without the heatsink, and that would be a drop-in fit. Some people don't really like running, or some people don't like running without heat sinks. Most of my cars, very few of my cars do. This Arma is probably one of the only ones that has a heat sink. I did buy a second Arma heat sink that I'm going to put in my Techno. So I don't mind chopping them up. But anyways, this video has already run on a little bit longer than what I had planned. Again, this is just a first look at all this system. I was hoping this would be a little quicker than the 13 minutes that this has turned into. But that's all for now. I'll sign out. Y'all have a great day. Bye.